be fast because it said 12:01. So, anyway. Okay. Gilbert, will you do the roll call, please?
John Winchester. Sean Samsel. Hold on. It's still muted, that's why. John Winchester. Sean Samsel. Here. Melissa Brown Dominguez. Kelly Lee.
Here.
Charlene Robinson. Lucretia Free. Tom Beresny.
Here.
Frank Santa Cruz. Here. Chair Gerber.
Present?
John Bernal. Here. Frank Fry. Here. Bill Schlesinger. We'll just do a repeat. Melissa Brown Dominguez. Charlene Robinson.
We have a quorum. Pardon? No, but we have a quorum.
Yeah, it sounded like 8 to me. Go ahead, though, if you want to verify.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you, Gilbert. Appreciate it. Okay, let's go to the minutes. The minutes are relatively long this last time. I'm sure the staff did a great job as usual. Any comments on the minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Okay, Tom, and a second?
Second.
Okay, Kelly. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, thank you. All right, now we're going to the, actually it's the second because we did the gas and gas electric vehicles one back a couple of meetings ago, but we're actually going to the first paper in the series that we're interested in. And I hope everybody received a copy. It's not real long, not hard to read. I think it was, if I recall, 3 pages. So about the right size for reading ahead of the meeting. In any event, this is put together by staff, including, I think we have the Director of Finance in the back, Kelly. You want to raise your hand and say hi? Okay, hi. Welcome. And your staff member?
Andy Walsh.
Welcome, Andy. They helped on this paper, and they'll be helping on the other papers along with the DOT staff. Any questions or observations related to this paper? Because, of course, we can add to or take away. I did have one question. Were there any other local jurisdictions, either in Arizona or adjoining states, that are using this technique to help finance road repairs? And if so, could we add that to the paper?
Sure, we would be happy to look at that. Our initial survey of the other jurisdictions, which we have contacts through the County Engineers Association, there were no counties in Arizona that use this specific taxing mechanism to fund their roadways.
Maybe we could check with New Mexico and California and Nevada, the surrounding states, and see if there are any. And the reason for that is, as we get all these papers, it'd be interesting to see comparatively what jurisdictions are using these different techniques, so.
Sure, we'd be happy to get some general info. I'll caution that property taxes and the tax law related to how states kind of, what counties are allowed to do within states and all of that is going to vary greatly between the different states, which is why we focused on surveying the other Arizona counties.
Okay, and that makes sense in terms of this paper, but if there are others, might be useful, again, for comparative purposes. Any other observations or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, John?
Two things. I tried to review the report there's a link to the December 23rd, 2019 report that didn't work. So I'm interested in how that, first pass with the road tax worked out back in 2017, 2018. And the only other question, I did see at the beginning that there's mention that the board has already tentatively adopted their budget, of course. And so since the tax wasn't included, then it can't be part of this coming fiscal year. We use short-term financing because it avoids some of the limitations. Am I reading that right?
Yes, you are. We did, the board tentatively adopted the budget last Tuesday, the 16th, so imposing a road tax at this point for fiscal year 23-24 is not possible. If you would like to bring that back to the board for discussion, it probably needs to come up when we start the budget process, which is in November, December, so that we can fold it in.
Thanks, Al.
Okay, that's helpful. Anything else?
I just had a question that you might not be able to ask or answer. The white paper doesn't really describe, well, it indicates that they've used this property tax before, like he was referring to in 17 and 18. And then I'm just not sure why it hasn't continued throughout the years, why they discontinued using this property tax, and now we may be looking at it again. Is there a reason why it went away?
To the best of my knowledge, the Board of Supervisors decided that it was not something they wanted to continue. That's the best answer that I can give you.
Okay.
And I'll just add that, that was around the time that we were looking at adopting PAYGO as a county, as a funding mechanism for all sorts of capital improvements, including our road repair program. And around that same time, there was also a bond initiative that included road repair. So it was a time when we were looking at lots of different funding options for roads. And so PAYGO is what we really landed on.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, though, because we are looking for an ongoing source of revenue. So, I mean, the bonds didn't pass for $200 million, that didn't work, and PAYGO was being considered, and that did work for a while. But now we need a more stable, ongoing source, so
Yeah.
good to bring that up. Yeah.
Definitely could be a solution.
Okay, any other questions or observations? Okay, you see on the list here, topic 4, we have another topic coming up next month, HERF versus general funds. I think Tom was the one bringing up that question. So we will be exploring that in the next meeting. And then July right now is scheduled for sales tax and then toll roads. And there was a question, well, why are we doing toll roads? There is no guarantee that the RTA tax is going to be renewed. And if it's not, we may be looking at that as an option down the road. So we just need to keep our options open. That's why it's on the list. So we'll be talking about July a little later in terms of our summer schedule. But for now, that's topic 4. So let's go to Jason Bowie, and also Catherine Skinner is going to do a little bit of a presentation also related to PAYGO and the recent board meeting. Jason, you want to go first?
Thank you, Chair Verberg, members of the committee. We are happy to present this update of our fiscal '23 program, where we'll start off here. And so getting started with where we're at this current year, our list of substantially complete projects since last month has grown by one more. The Tanque Verde Mill and Pave job was substantially complete as of the 12th of May. So you can see that list there is getting ever longer, and we anticipate here in the next several weeks adding a good handful more to that list as well. And some of those projects are these that are in construction right now. So there are 8 projects that are currently in construction. The Costa del Bay South project, you can see there it is nearing completion very quickly. All the milling and paving work for that job is complete. And then utility adjustments are ongoing and expected to be wrapped up here shortly within the next couple weeks. The Costa del Bay North job really just started getting going here in the last several weeks. They're continuing on milling and paving work as well as utility adjustments, lowering ahead of the paving and raising after the paving. So it is moving along quite nicely. The Heritage Hills job just got underway here in the last couple weeks. You can see we got notice proceed on the 15th of May. So they are currently working on lowering utilities as well as paving work, which was beginning this week. The Pima Farms Bridlewood West jock also notice to proceed on the 15th. They are completed on Pima Farms already, and they are now going to start working into that Bridlewood West neighborhood here in about a week or so. The Southeast jock is also back underway. It restarted on the 18th. Paving is ongoing currently, and the expected completion for that job is the beginning of June. And then the Linda Vista Estates project, this job is also wrapping up quite quickly. All paving is complete, and then the survey and utility raising work is also wrapping up, and so we're expecting that job to be added to that substantially complete column here within the next 2 weeks. The Meadowbrook North Point Terrace jock is also moving along quite quickly. The billing is lagging a little bit behind. Paving is already complete on that job, and they are also working on the survey and utility work, and it is quite quickly wrapping up as well. And the last job to talk about that's in construction is the Moondance Bridlewood Ranch job. That one had notice to proceed on the 8th of May, and they are working on survey and utility adjustments, and it says they're milling and paving ongoing, but they actually just finished that last week as well. So they're now working on utility raising, so that job is moving along quite quickly. And so talking a little bit more about that job, just because I know that was one of the few that we haven't talked a lot about so far. Just a reminder where that job is. That is south of Cortero, north of McGee, and then between Camino de Oeste and Shannon. So that's the general area of that project. It is being performed by Markham Contracting. And like I said, it is moving along quite quickly, and we do expect it to be complete prior to the 30th of June. Another job we haven't talked about a lot, but this is also in construction. This is that Bridlewood West Pima Farms job. And so this is kind of straddling Interstate 10. Pima Farms, obviously, to the east of I-10, and Bridlewood West is to the west of I-10 and south of Ina Road. That job's being performed by Borderland Construction, and it is moving along quite well and is expected to be complete prior to the end of June. So where does that put us overall for the year? You'll notice we didn't talk about any jobs coming up because all of our jobs are now in construction or completed for this fiscal year. You can see there are quite a lot of them already in that complete column, while the rest are in construction and progressing quite quickly toward the complete column as well. And with that, I will just remind everyone that you can view the status of all of the roads in our program at our Road Repair and Preservation Project map with the link there below. This will be the spot that we'll add the fiscal '24 roads in, so be on the lookout for those as well. And that's a perfect segue into fiscal '24. I know there's some questions about what that looks like. So we'll just kind of remind everyone of what the overall guiding principles are going for next fiscal year. So we are looking, our network-wide goals are to have no more than 5% of the network in very poor condition, and also to retain at least 50% of the network in very good condition. And right now, currently at the end of fiscal '23, we are there, and we anticipate we will still be there at the end of fiscal '24. So that's some great news there as well. Surface treatments, we are, just the overall guiding principles, just a reminder that we are giving up to 35% of the yearly budget for preventative maintenance, which would be your surface treatments like fog seal, chip seal, micro, et cetera. These treatments will be chosen based on the distresses and the pavement condition index for that road. So you've heard probably the buzz phrase, right treatment, right time. So that's what that means there. So more specifically diving into what does fiscal '24 look like. So we do have a $20 million budget. The program does include 2 carryover projects from fiscal '23. And you can see the funding split there of where the funding is going. So we did go with a 30-70 split. And you can see there the percentages of the total dollar amount broken into each. So 8% of our total dollars are going to local surface treatments, 23% to local rehab, which is the mill and pave work, 23% to arterial collector surface treatment, and 46% to arterial collector mill and pave work. And you can see the corresponding target dollars there. Again, these are target dollars, so the exact dollar amount as roads are selected will vary slightly from those numbers. And a little teaser here. The list is coming soon, so be on the lookout for that. And with that, one more thing to talk about here, kind of segueing into the last part of this presentation, the road condition survey update. So we've been talking for a few months now, at least, about the road condition survey that's been ongoing through our vendor. We have some of that preliminary data to share with you all, because I know we've been curious about where we are at. So I want to take a look at some high-level numbers right now. We won't get into the specifics too much, but just some high-level numbers. So here's kind of the results of our survey. So you can see there, the results of our survey showed that our average network PCI is actually a 77, which is better condition than we thought we were going to be in. So that's great news. As teased a little bit before, we have 68% of our network in very good condition and only 1% of the network in very poor condition. And you can see there a couple graphs showing the trend of where we've been over the years and the progress that's been made here in the last several years. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Director Skinner to continue our conversation.
Could we hold just a second? Any
Sure.
questions for Jason before we move ahead?
I do, Chair.
Okay, Tom, go ahead.
Hi, Jason, thanks. General question on ADA ramps.
Yeah.
Over the last few years, and just like this current year, we've had 473 ADA ramps put in. So that comes out of the $66.8 million that we had allocated for the program.
Correct.
What percentage of that went into arterial collectors and what percent into locals?
Ooh. I don't have exact numbers, obviously, right now, off the top of my head, but I can, a general rule of thumb is most of our ADA ramp work is in our subdivisions.
And so it's locals.
Yeah.
So do
I'd
we
say
have a
vast
general,
majority is.
just an average cost for one ADA ramp? Do we have that number?
We can get that number to you. I
Because
don't
what
want
I'm
to speak
driving
out of
at
turn,
is,
but
because if we have only 5.7 million allocated towards local roads this year, and all of a sudden we have, that percentage of the ADA ramps, that's just that much less mill and pave that we're going to be doing in these local roads. And so that, of course, is then the concern also.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
if we could get that-
understandable.
Yeah, if we could get those numbers.
Yeah, we can work on those.
And if I may, Chair Verberg,
Yes.
Tom, installing ADA ramps is a requirement if you're doing a mill and pave treatment.
Yep.
So the good thing is, it's a one-time cost. Once it's in and we have to do future maintenance, it's not like you're having to replace those, but that is just an expense of upgrading our system.
Right. Understood.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, John?
thanks for the presentation, Jason. You mentioned 1% in very poor. What's that translate to in mileage?
Let me see if,
It's right around 19 miles, 19,
yeah,
20
that
miles.
sounds
Is it
right.
the same number we're kind of focused on with our
Yeah.
proposal? Okay. And we don't know yet whether we're treating any of those this coming year.
At this point, I don't think we're ready to quite talk about what roads are where on the fiscal '24 or future programs as of yet. We're still kind of parsing through some of that data, so.
And I think Tom Bresney has another
Yeah,
question.
I got one more.
Yeah.
So when we go on the DOT webpage in the tab Pavement Condition Index, so the map, the interactive map we have there, when you click on a road, it shows the results for, I think, April of last year was the PCI rating.
Yeah,
Some of them have been updated, like I know down in the Green Valley area, Continental hasn't turned green yet. We still got some ambers in there and stuff. We paved some roads in some of the subdivisions down there. In White House Canyon, that stretch from the main intersection up to Continental School has turned red now because of the split that's been done. I don't know if that was due to the most current PCI rating or not, but when is that going, that will be updated, that whole map will be updated when the new results for FY '23, the newly conducted survey, because it's.
correct, yeah.
Some of the places it looks like it's updated, some of the places it doesn't look like it's been updated for a year now.
Correct, yeah, our staff will be working on here in the next couple weeks, getting that map updated.
Okay.
So that's why we were just looking at the high level
Yeah.
today, and some of that more detailed stuff will get, posted on the website.
I know it's
here
been updated
shortly.
because before the previous rating system we had where failed was from 0 to 40. Now some of those in the 30 are showing up orange again for poor.
Correct,
So I know
yeah, we
all
did
of
go
that
ahead
was
and-
updated
Yeah,
within.
we adjusted the breakpoints on our
Okay.
website, and then the new data should be coming in to the website next. So we
Okay.
are in the process, yeah.
Thanks.
Well, just to follow up there, when do you anticipate the updates will be completed on the website?
Hopefully, I don't have a detailed timeline. I don't know if Gabe, Leva,
We're actually actively working on making those updates currently, so hopefully in the coming weeks we'll.
So by next month, when we meet, you might have it all updated? Is that what you're shooting for? Roughly in that time frame. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. And now Director Skinner.
Thank you, Chair Verberg. Members of the committee, I'm Catherine Skinner, Director of Transportation, and I wanted to provide some brief updates. As you all know, April 18th was the first opportunity the Board of Supervisors had to discuss these overall guiding principles that we're recommending up after all of our meetings of this committee and the subcommittee coming up with these. They had a series of questions as we expected, and it was around the same time that the letter from your group was sent to the board suggesting that potentially another $15 million to the program for fiscal year '24 would be enough to address these remaining roads that are in very poor condition. So on May 16th, it was again at the board meeting, they discussed some various scenarios. And as background to that, and I believe it was distributed to all of you, there was this pretty lengthy memo distributed on May 12th that looked at addressing some of the questions that were raised initially. And I think the highlights there are all of the roads that were very poor when we started on this endeavor 4 years ago, we've already fixed those. And we know that this is, the nature of roads is they're constantly deteriorating. So new ones are falling into that category, but we really have made significant progress in addressing these roads that are in the worst condition. And that's what some of the attached tables that showed the initial rating of roads and have we addressed them yet. It was not meant to capture what their rating is today because we're waiting for this new data that Jason spoke of. The other thing that this memo went in depth with, and I'm glad that Finance Director Ellen Moulton is here along with Deputy Director Andy Welch. We looked at 5 different scenarios that could potentially be used to fill that $15 million request. Those 5 scenarios were eliminating very specific items in the overall PAYGO program. To remind you that the PAYGO policy was not solely to address pavement repair. It was to address a whole host of capital improvements that are needed in the county, all different departments. The second scenario was to reduce the general fund expenditures and hold on filling some of those vacancies. The third scenario was imposing a road property tax, which we discussed earlier. The fourth was increasing the primary property tax. And then the fifth was applying a general excise tax. So after the board discussed these, it was determined we're going to go forth with these guiding principles and without the additional $15 million. I think one of the important things, again, I go back to is roads are constantly deteriorating, and that's the purpose of adopting guiding principles that are very balanced and holistic and looking to get your roads so that they are kind of in the whole spectrum of roadway conditions so that we're not always doing mill and paves. We're not just doing pavement preservations. We're doing a little bit and balancing it so long-term we have a sustainable program. And so because that $15 million would solve that one moment in time problem, but you'd have a new very poor later on, it didn't seem like the best plan in their minds. And so they voted and did not choose any of the scenarios that were recommended. And that is the update I wanted to provide all of you. I will say we are working on another memo that will go into much more detail on these new PCI results. So talking about our average 77 PCI, which is great, and we should all be very excited about that. Also providing a road list so that we can look at what all of these different roads are. I know that's a question that we get from constituents all the time. What does my road rate? And so we will have that full long list published again, as well as our fiscal year 24 mill and pave list. So are there any questions from the committee?
Yes, John?
One observation, Catherine, I think it's the first time I've heard that we really did hit all the very poor roads from where we started. I think that's a very important point because this group, at least our subcommittee in particular, said, we made, quote, promises to the public that we deal with all these terrible roads, but I didn't realize that we actually were able to accomplish that. Not, as you said, we've had some deterioration, so we got new, very poor roads.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good point, I think, to stress that we did deliver on the first part of that. The other question I had, maybe Ellen can help with this. I noticed in reading some of the stuff on the budget that we're at about $11 million still in debt service from the 97 bonds. And I assume that's going to head pretty, steeply downhill in the next few years.
We will pay off all of the county bonded debt in 2029.
2029.
So we're still a few years away then?
Yes.
And it's going to stay fairly flat?
It drops
Incremental?
incrementally.
Yeah.
Just thinking that there, obviously it'll give you a little more cash to work with, but it doesn't sound like it's going to happen that fast.
Right, and for those of you that are probably not as familiar with how high our debt service was a few years ago, as Mr. Bernal is, it used to be around $20 million a year. So it is almost cut in half from where it was, which has provided us the opportunity to invest much more HERF in this program, but it still has a ways to go.
Thanks.
Other questions for Catherine? If not, thank you very much for the update. Appreciate all the hard work getting that information to the board. A lot of work by your staff and the finance office. Thank you very much. Okay, I guess you really didn't need to go away because it's the RTA update. Welcome back up.
Thank you, committee. I had to get my new set of notes. So, as always, a monthly update on the RTA Next. I will say there have been a significant number of meetings since our last time meeting as the TAC. The board has not met, the RTA board has not met. They do meet this coming Thursday, May 25th, and at that time there are a few actions on the agenda, action items that they may take. One of those is to discuss, have a discussion and possible action to direct staff or the Citizens Advisory Committee with the RTA board's priorities for development of the next RTA plan. And then the other item, which potentially pertains even more to us, is to affirm that routine maintenance is not statutorily eligible for RTA funding. Capital maintenance may be considered if funding is available and within the budget.
Can you say that again, Catherine?
I sure can. So, to affirm that routine maintenance is not statutorily eligible for RTA funding. Capital maintenance may be considered if funding is available within the budget. So in discussion at various committees, what I understand that to mean is a fog seal, a chip seal, pothole patching, those types of road maintenance activities are not eligible for the RTA Next. Our proposal never really asserted that we would be asking for money for that. It really was more of the mill and pave, reconstruct, repair aspects of it. So we will see what that discussion brings on Thursday of the RTA board. The RTA Citizens Advisory Committee has met. They are focused twofold. One is understanding the RTA roadway list and what projects are going to stay on there. What are the priorities? What would they like to see? And then the other part is focusing on those other categorical elements, safety, alternative modes, transit, and really trying to understand what balance the program should have. Some of the discussion has been whether there should be named projects within the categories. So the existing RTA plan did not name specific projects. You had a sidewalk, bikeway, pathways, but you did not list specific roadways that you would be seeing those improvements on. So there's some discussion about being specific about what projects we will get there and then leaving some unprogrammed. So those discussions are continuing. The other major development has been that this Technical Management Committee ad hoc working group, so it includes all of the jurisdictions, one member from each of them, so 9, and then 6 members from the CAC have been meeting weekly for the past 3 weeks, and they'll meet again tomorrow to really have detailed and in-depth discussions about the named roadway list. That list is supposed to be $1.1 billion. Right now, it's at about $1.4 billion, and so it is the discussion of where's the $300 million we have to trim out. To that end, and trying to break the logjam many different ways they've approached it. One is they've looked at categorizing the 37 projects that remained into 4 main categories. Those were modernization, operational, capacity, and new roadways. And then they did a ranking exercise within those 4 categories. There has not been action to say, yes, we're going to go forth with any one of those lists. It's still very much a discussion. The last meeting last week, the city of Tucson provided a recommendation of how they would kind of fund which projects of theirs they would like to see move forward. And so it's been very complicated sometimes, the discussions that are going on. These meetings are 2 to 3 hours long a week with a lot of great discussion, but it really is what needs to happen, the conversation that needs to happen, and it's been great to have the Citizens Advisory Committee and the Technical Management Committee together, because sometimes we have questions that one group wants to ask the other, so this is a lot of overlap in the two. So the deadline, to remind you, is July of this year that the RTA plan, including the categories and the roadway projects, should be delivered to the RTA board. So with that, if anybody has any questions, please let me know.
Catherine, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, you mentioned the maintenance topic. Is there any recommendation that you see in that about whether to include it in the RTA next?
I would say none of the sample ballots, if you will, they've kind of been distributing what looks like a mock ballot so you can kind of see how it breaks down. None of them have included a roadway maintenance element thus far, and it does seem like it has been discouraged. But I know that early on, the initial submittal that we made to the RTA, we suggested that it would be helpful to have a maintenance category. And some of the other jurisdictions have also expressed a need for more maintenance money. And again, we keep using the word maintenance. It is really road repair, but it is in that mill and pave category that we, in the industry, oftentimes just call maintenance. It's not a new design.
And I think the other detail that's worth noting is the money from RTA Next would only go to arterial and collector roads, regional roads. They never get spent on local. So.
Good point. Any more questions? Thank you, Director Skinner.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to call the audience. So far, we have one on the list. If there's anybody else here, make sure you give your request to Annabelle in back of me. Chris Papas. Is Chris here, please? Come on up to the podium.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Pappas, and I am representing Cimarron Homeowners Association. This community is along Sunrise Drive from Craycroft going east to Paseo Otono going towards the road at Colb Road. It's an older community. It's been around probably since the mid-'80s. There's over 420 homes which are in our community. Our roads have not been touched probably since 2000. I moved in 07. I noticed that you guys recently finally finished Skyline Bel Air Estates, which I used to live in there in the 90s and when I was in college. You did a great job. Looks very good. I'm sure the residents are very happy. Unfortunately, if I didn't show up at this meeting, I'd be tar and feathered at our yearly meeting. One of the main reasons I'm here is because my little daughter is 6 years old these days. She just learned to ride her bicycle. And on my street, which is via Garrisol, there seems to be a lot of cracks, a lot of potholes, not so many, but it's more cracks, and literally the chunks of the concrete from the UPS trucks, the Federal Express trucks, and the garbage trucks on a weekly basis are just tearing up these roads. My question to you guys is, maybe Jason, maybe you, Catherine, is who determines this PCI category breakdown? Do you have a general contractor? Someone's been doing this for 50 years? I'm just curious because from what I see, I mean, I literally drove. We have over 15 miles within our community from A to B. And the cracks that are in the center of the street that have been gouged out by trucks, various things, erosion, monsoons, don't do any justice for it as well. But I was out there measuring. Some of our cracks run over 100, 150 feet at a pop. Our two largest streets are Paseo Ventoso and Paseo Cimarron. Cimarron runs off of Craycroft and goes and literally bisects the community that runs all the way to Paseo Otono. And Paseo Ventoso is an interior street which runs throughout the community as well. There's a lot of grades in them. There's a lot of, our medians are not curbed, so all the erosion that runs off during the monsoon season from all the vegetation runs onto the roads, runs down to people's driveways, etc. And I guess my thing is, and a question would be, and a lot of people ask me at the yearly meeting is, one, when are they going to do our roads, which I can't always answer that question. But two, do you guys, rather than milling and putting in brand-new pavement, send trucks out with some paving materials to basically tar the cracks, put some pea gravel in the cracks to basically put a Polish Band-Aid on the road just to preserve until we can get to the point where we're very poor? I noticed on our PCI ratio that I read the report on, we're about 32 to 35, and we're not getting any better. And, recently, I mean, I could set an alarm clock by one of the saw cuts that's right on my road where either Comcast or Cox or somebody came and saw cut, and it's managed to sag down about 3 inches over the course of a year. So as cars go by, I hear thud, 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 and then as they make the switch back, I hear it again, thud, thud. And that's just one of the areas within our community. But again, the biggest thing I see on the deterioration of our neighborhood is the large cracks. The horizontal cracks is every 10, 15 feet, and they go down about 2 inches. But if you can get a truck out there or some maintenance people out there just to seal the cracks in the neighborhood, that's a great starter, and it would probably save you a lot. I mean, our revenues and our taxes for over 420 homes, I mean, I'm at 5,000 a year, and I know there's homes that are more than that. So the revenue just off our community, it's over 2 million. But of course, that goes to other things, and I know that. But I'm just here on behalf of Cimarron HOA to try and be put on this list for, not this summer, obviously, it's already done, but to get on possibly next year's budget to get somebody out there and really, get out, walk them, because we have a lot of elderly people that walk our roads, and there's not a lot of room when cars come by, trucks come by, to even move off to the side other than getting in somebody's driveway so you don't get hit by a truck or a car. But the chunks of the concrete have literally fallen off the edge into the medians, into people's yards as well. And,
Sorry to interrupt you, you exceeded your.
oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you for having me, people.
It's all right, thank you for coming. We appreciate, actually, you brought up several issues, so we'll make sure and get a good response back on all of them. The PCI, just to give you an overview on one of them, we did that several years ago and then just this year. So we do have comparative numbers, and as was mentioned earlier, we're just uploading those new numbers so we have them available across the whole road system. So we're working at it, and we do have some answers. So staff will give you a response, and thank you so much for stepping forward. We appreciate it. That's what we're here for. It's part of what we're here for anyway. So anybody else from the audience? Jerry, you're there, and we know you're happy, man. So thanks for coming back. I mean, we like seeing you, really. Okay. Who knows? I may come out and do it again for you out there. Okay. Not hearing any other people stepping forward from the audience. We're going to go here to the future topics for discussion. Now, these two topics came up. The first one, growth, John Burnell brought up, and we want to kind of see how transportation planning is merging with where the county is seen going in terms of growth. The second one, Tom Bresney has brought up recently. So we're going to factor these into our equation in terms of future agendas. So is there anything else that people want to bring up? I should say committee members want to bring up. Very well. Let's go then. So we're going to weave these other topics in as we do these funding papers or issue papers on funding. We're going to try to weave them in pending the availability of staff time, remembering it was a real busy month for them this last month and for the finance staff as far as that goes. So thanks for all your hard work. Let's go to next meeting. Last year, I went and checked through my notebook, and last year we took July off. It seems to be the off month here for a variety of reasons, schooling and so forth, people going on vacations with schools starting, early August, in any event. What is the pleasure of the committee? Would you like to take July off like we did last year?
Chair Verberg,
Yes, Kathy.
I don't know if this is working. Can you hear me?
Don't make it work. It's working, yes.
I would prefer to take July off if possible.
Okay.
So that's my vote.
Other comments? People want to go on vacation and take some time off in July? I think Kathy,
Chair? I would like to take it. This is Charlene. I concur. I would like to take it off as well.
very good. All right, so who would like to make a motion that we not meet in July?
Chair Verberg, I'll make a motion to cancel the July meeting this year.
Okay, do we have a second? Very good. John, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, now what this means is that our schedule that you saw up above that I commented on earlier, so the sales tax, which was scheduled for July, will now slip to August, and likewise the toll road said, we'll skip a month forward. So with that said, we'll stay on our theme of reviewing funding options, but a somewhat different schedule. Okay, the next meeting is June 27th. If you have any topics beyond what we've kind of identified as a group that we want to address, please let Annabelle know. And let's see, is there a date for that, Annabelle? By June 9th. So if anybody has something they want to suggest, be in touch with her. All that being said, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kelly. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Okay, enjoy your week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.